We need to talk about this. There's a lie that just refuses to die down, and this exchange that Charlie Kirk had with a student over DEI and racial quotas in the airline industry is the perfect place for me to tell you about it. Watch how it went down and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
All right, so I'm gonna quote you real quick. You said, if I see a black pilot, I'm gonna be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. Are you gonna do that?
Yeah, I mean that is correct, yeah.
That's correct? Okay, so can we both agree?
What was the context of what I said, though?
What was the context? I don't even want to get into DEI because your opinion on DEI, it doesn't really help it in this case. So if the context between what you brought up was that you believe that
because they were being hired because they were black.
Okay, so can we both agree that every single pilot, whether black, white, whoever, has to go through FAA certification?
No, actually,
we can't.
New lawsuit shows that black pilots and female pilots have the standards being relaxed.
No,
for them.
sir. Can we agree at the time of February 29th or 2023 when you said it at the time? No.
No, actually, I said it. That's why you don't know the context. Is that new lawsuits were showing that they were relaxing the standards for air traffic control and pilots in order to meet the standards.
The context of that was diversity, equity, and inclusion. What does that have to do with hiring?
Everything. DEI definitionally is that we will hire more of a race versus a different race. So, for example, United Airlines said that they want 50% of their new pilots to either be women or black. Okay. Currently, just so you understand, it's like 8%. So they want to go from 8% to 50%.
Okay.
And every time DEI is implemented, every single time, the lowering of standards occurs. Every single time.
Lowering of standards?
Correct.
And here's a cold statistical fact. Anytime you insist on drawing the same numbers from a smaller pool of people, you have to lower the standards for it. There's no getting around this fact. So how on earth can an airline claim that it wants to hire 50% female or people of color when the African American population is around 12% of that available pool and the female pilots is just around 14%? That's the asterisk to this DEI debate that so many people miss. By the way, do subscribe to the Millionaire Mentor and hit the notification bell to always see the story they are hiding from you. Now, Charlie said it started a couple of years ago. Take a listen so you get the full perspective.
And that's why I think this United story and the DEI story hits so hard, because we've all been in the back of a plane when the turbulence hits or when you're flying through a storm and you're like, I'm so glad I saw the guy with the right stuff and the square jaw get into the cockpit before we took off. And I feel better now thinking about that.
No, I mean, like, you want to go thought crime? Like, I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Well, that's the you wouldn't have done that. You wouldn't have. You wouldn't have done that before.
That's not an immediate.
No, you wouldn't have done that before.
That's not who I am. That's not what I believe.
It is the reality the left has created.
But it is actually much longer if you take a broader perspective, because there was the debate of lowered standards in the airline industry even back in 2016. In a case that's currently active as a result of new Obama-era hiring standards called Brigida vs. FAA, it's alleged that around 1,000 qualified air traffic controllers were actively rejected by the FAA just because they didn't fit their box of racial DEI quotas. So it's been going on for much longer, and what you're seeing with United or Southwest Airlines is simply a trickle-down effect of that broader shift. Charlie broke this student's brain next with a simple analogy for how inherently anti-merit DEI policies really are.
If you and I said, hey, we want 50% of the new people going in the NBA are white,
okay,
would the NBA drop in its standard?
No. The National Basketball League?
No, if we said 50%, if we say
50% of the NBA dropped and it was only white.
No, I said
would the standard go down?
I'm not hearing what I'm saying. If 50% of all new people going in the NBA were white, by decree, would the quality of play of the NBA decrease? Because the best players are allowed to play in the NBA.
Well, actually, the best players in the NBA are European born.
Well,
they're not even African American.
I mean, a couple of them are. As I said, we're very proud.
No, we're very integrated within sports, but what does that prove?
That proves that the NBA is not built on DEI, it's built on excellence.
No, the NBA isn't proof. So when you mention DEI, you're now saying that it's...
You obviously don't know what DEI is. DEI...
How I know what DEI is if you're not giving me a proper explanation on what it is.
DEI is racial quotas.
Racial quotas?
Yes. You've never heard of DEI before. So, do you know what a racial quota is? You have to have a certain amount of a certain race. That is what United Airlines did. Mm-hmm. We must get to 50% of our pilots to be black or women. Okay. Therefore, if the NBA said 50% of our players have to be white, I guarantee you, we could try to get as many Serbs and Croats as possible. It's not going to make the NBA the best league. Instead, the NBA has a policy of which the NBA And the FAA and the United Airlines should have the same policy. It doesn't matter the color of your skin. It matters how good you are at what you do.
So
excellence matters.
And that is spot on. What blows my mind is that even the NBA example didn't do much to move the needle with this guy, because that's the most obvious example where one racial group dominates the sport on merit without even making it an explicit goal based on DEI. That's what a colorblind meritocracy leads to, and it absolutely does not and should not matter what color representation you end up with, as long as standards are the same. And remember, being a pilot or air traffic controller is much more important than a sport, because lives are literally at stake.
I said, when you say a black or female pilot might be less qualified because of DEI, what you're implying is that they didn't earn their spot.
Correct, they didn't, because that's what DEI does.
That's what you're implying?
Because you're there because of the quota, not because of excellence.
Does DEI give you the opportunity because of who you are, or does it open up access?
No, it gives it because of literally the color of your skin.
Charlie, you are quoted by saying that, guys, Charlie...
Everyone knows the quote because it's true. When you hire somebody...
What's true?
It's true because they're there not because of their merit, but because of a racial quota. Why is it that only 8% of pilots right now for United Airlines are black or female?
It's actually 3%.
Oh, that proves my point even more.
And no, it doesn't. It's, guys, DEI is the reason why they're not in these positions. But it's because they're... Listen.
Man, you are making no sense at all.
That's cool.
No, explain to me what...
Diversity, equity, and inclusion is the... Sorry, okay.
Explain to me what a racial quota is.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion is the reason as to why accesses are now open to certain races.
Hold on. Can a black person not become a pilot before DEI?
What are you saying? Was it equal opportunity or was it equal access?
But
was it equal opportunity? Was it equal access?
It's
Charlie?
equal, both.
Does this guy even know what DEI is? This is even worse than Don Lemon's redefinition of DEI when he said, "Oh, all DEI does is broaden the pool for people." What? No, that's actually the opposite of DEI, because it actively shrinks and sections off the pool into little racial identity groups just to make sure that every group is represented. And a lowering of standards to achieve that is baked into the cake of DEI as long as you insist on a race-first hiring policy. And I'm steelmanning the argument even from the pro-DEI side, because this is something not many people on the left would deny. Now this debate spilled over beyond that next, but I still think it ties into the lack of understanding about demographics and statistics that so many people conflate with broad systemic racism.
I want you to tell me, why is it that black Americans are 13% of the population, yet they commit 55% of the murders?
Where can you show me that?
Again, it's FBI statistics. It's
FBI
well known.
FBI statistics. Where can you show me that at?
Can you give
me
substantial ChatGPT, ask Grok.
Why would I ask ChatGPT when ChatGPT has shown, prove it? What?
Prove it again. Anyone near you can show you the stats, right? It's right there. Look.
What are you showing me?
Man,
let's read it. 70% of offenders were African American. Wait, pull it back up. Boo, yeah. Charlie, for the sake of myself, I really do appreciate the ability to debate with you, man.
I want you to think about what I asked you.
Okay, you mind if I have a hat?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This one did end better than I thought, because there's no shortage of instances where people have just flipped on Charlie for conflating being anti-DEI with being anti-minority when that's absolutely not true. And perhaps it's a commentary on how the broader cultural conversation is lacking the respect and reverence for blind merit that has always been the goal of the feminist and civil rights fight in the last century. But you tell me in the comments what you think, because we're certainly standing at a moment in history when we're putting a reverse gear on a lot of these far left ideas that have dominated this country for at least the past decade.